Good question. I think good crowd. That was great. Probably the Mike White rollout and pass to KJ Hamler, or the Mitchell Trubisky pass to Tyrell Shavers. I would say those two are probably the biggest highlights for the Bills.
And Shavers, like that's only going to add juice to his campaign to make the team. Do you think this is the year that it finally happens for him?
I still think it's an uphill battle because I think he would have to be making as the sixth wide receiver unless Curtis Samuel still can't get on the field. They elect to, whether it's IR or trade him if someone would take a salary or release him. But I mean, we're a long way from all that. And then I still think, Elijah Moore offers something that this team, needs as far as a slot receiver who can get down the field, a little speed. So, yes, he helps his case. But I still think it's probably more of an uphill battle. And let's be honest, I know that if you make the team, you should be rewarded. But if they were to move on or release, Tyrell Shavers, you're probably more likely to get him back on the practice squad anyway. And then you can still kind of play the long game a little bit with him, as far as elevating him or bringing him up, throughout the year if you need him.
Yeah, there are guys like this. 4A maybe
right.
is Shavers. Like, it's sort of, in my mind, it works against him here that he's been around for 2 years, not in his favor. You could make the argument that they know him and, anybody can improve. But I would just kindly ask back, like, well, this team's wide receiver room has been questioned heavily for a couple of years. They're trying to win a championship. If the guy had what they needed, why wouldn't he have been up? But for that, to make one play in a blowout. So, I kind of feel the same way, Sal, that I wouldn't bet on him making it. Maybe he could.
Yeah, I mean, injuries happen. We know that. And, they're going to have to still evaluate what they want on special teams and what guys on the roster they can use there or not use there. And some positions will impact other positions. I agree 100%, Mike, with not only the Bills aspect of that. Like, if he could help them, he would have been, called up earlier. But other teams, too. As a practice squad player, as you guys know, you're a free agent. You could sign with any team. All it takes is the team to offer you a contract to go on the 53, and that happens quite often. So I would say that, given that, you could probably bank on the fact that nobody's really going to put him on their roster, and you could put him on your practice squad. And if you're Tyrell Shavers, would you turn down that opportunity? Probably not, so he would probably come back. So we're a few weeks away from that. He's probably got he can play in the league as a fringe player, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to make this team again.
Sal, another player to add into the mix there at receiver who offers something on special teams and returnability is Laviska Shenault. That got my attention Saturday. And maybe most notably the fact that he returned a punt, because I think we were talking on Friday about how I think you looked it up and uncovered why he is credited with a 55-yard touchdown on a punt return, but no punt returns. It's because he recovered a fumble and ran it back on a punt return. So he's never done that in college or in the NFL. He's a kick returner and receiver, but he did have a punt return. So I wonder if that feels like that's on the table now for him.
I don't disagree. I think Laviska Shenault is making a charge here to make the team. I think that's the way he would have to make it, that he would have to offer ability maybe beyond just kick return, right? Whether that's on offense or even as a punt returner. But they really like what he can bring as a kick returner. Is it enough, though, to be able to stick on the team? And if you remember Friday when we were on Bulldog, and I made mention that at practice last week when he was doing warm-up drills, when he stepped up, Josh Allen was throwing the ball every time. I thought that was notable. Josh was the guy, the quarterback, throwing him those passes. It wasn't just maybe the math that worked out with each quarterback. It seemed like it was kind of intentional that Josh was throwing him. Are they trying to get more of a look at him catching passes from Josh Allen? Then you get to the game. It's not just putting him as a punt returner, and I agree. That's a big deal that you saw that. He also caught a two-point conversion. It was a nice catch. He was on the field. He caught it with his hands. He made a nice play right there. I still think Brandon Codrington is this team's number one punt returner. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to evaluate how much Codrington gives to the defense playing nickel compared to how much other guys give to other positions and decide what's worth a certain spot versus another guy at another spot. And something on defense might impact offense. It's not just a one-for-one apples to apples.
With Sal Capaccio, the never-ending challenges of trying to discern from preseason football, what matters and what doesn't. I thought when I heard about the Khalil Shakir injury last week, well, this will be interesting it already was, I thought, possibly going to be interesting what the Bills, how they'll use their wide receivers and what can we tell from it. And now no Shakir, who was maybe the most solid, party in all of this. He's the one we knew the best, I think, for a role. And now it's opened up. What do the Bills want to do about it? What can we find out? Do you feel, Elijah Moore played a little bit. Samuel was hurt again. Do you feel either whether Saturday told us anything to that question, what does it look like without Shakir potentially, or just maybe you feel like you might know something new about that already without Saturday?
No, I don't think it gave me much, Mike, because Josh Allen wasn't the quarterback, first of all, and you're probably not running your full offense. You can't really tell. I think more than anything, it just gave us an opportunity to see where these guys are a little bit in the pecking order and who's getting on the field and who's not, who's getting opportunities, who's not. We mentioned Laviska Shenault, we mentioned Tyrell Shavers. Elijah Moore did not have a stat. He didn't have a target. But if you look at, there's a viral clip going around.
Yep.
There's one play where Mitch Trubisky had him wide open down the middle, and he beat his guy off the line of scrimmage. And if I'm evaluating film as coach, that's a great rep for him. That's a positive. It doesn't have to be something that the fans see as a stat. So, there's a lot of things that go into this that they're going to be evaluating here at the wide receiver spot. I think Curtis Samuel just needs to get on the field soon. Sean McDermott, after the game, talked about how, this is kind of go time now this week. He's excited to see which guys come back and what they can do. We're getting to the point of the second preseason game, and this is a big week with the Bears joint practice and having the ability to really put these guys in different situations and work a really good practice against another team. And then we're going to have the game on Sunday, obviously, and then you have one more preseason game where a lot of these guys aren't going to play. Yeah, back-end guys are, but not the starters against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And McDermott kind of made it known, he wants to see these guys get back, and it's going to be interesting to see who does get back when we go back to practice tomorrow.
It did feel like the clues were pretty strong. Stop me if I get any of this wrong here, but among the injured guys here that suited up and took part in warm-up were both Curtis Samuel and Cole Bishop. Am I correct there? And so that feels like an indicator that maybe they're close and could practice this week. Is that a decent read?
I would agree with that, yes. They warmed up with the team they did not play. So what does that mean for their progress? Terrell Bernard, the same thing.
Right.
What does that mean? He had been practicing, obviously, with the team already, but he didn't play. They didn't want to put him in that position. Spencer Brown, he had been practicing. They didn't want him to play. So I would put them kind of in the same bucket without the actual practices already. And then we'll see what they do, coming up to starting tomorrow. And obviously James Cook's in that bucket as well, but for non-injury purposes.
Sal, the defense, the Giants were pretty prosperous, especially throwing the ball 4 different quarterbacks, over 300 passing yards, a lot of it on screens, I know, but it for a preseason opener seemed to come pretty easily to the Giants, without Neighbors, by the way, in this game. Are there any concerns from it? Were there things that you saw that you think maybe will become more than just kind of a fluke?
It reminded me last year the Bills gave up 33 to the Bears in the opening preseason game. The Bears, they ran all these bootlegs, and Bills had trouble stopping them, and they weren't game planning and all that, and I get it. They weren't game planning for screens. But I think you have to be better at recognizing them. So there's a concern for me that, okay, if you're a team playing the Buffalo Bills, are you thinking, okay, we can get them on these types of plays? The defensive line didn't get a ton of pass rush, a few things that they did here and there to generate some pressure. That was nice, just one-on-one opportunities. But you'd like to see a little bit more of that, but you don't want to over-evaluate or, panic or anything like that because it is a preseason game. I think down the depth chart, secondary, Tre'Davious White, after the game, some people said, you should give him an arrow down in my arrow down column. I don't think he played a bad game. I think he just had a few catches on him in front of him, but he's got to be able to, hold up and tackle a little bit. I thought Dane Jackson, it was a tough look to see him get beat one-on-one down the field by Lil Jordan Humphrey on the pass by Jackson Dart. So, DeMar Hamlin didn't get over in time. What responsibility was that? We're not exactly sure, if he was supposed to be there or not. So a few things here and there that I'd be a little concerned about, but nothing that I don't think that you should be overly concerned about right now because it was the first preseason game. And listen, Matt Bove asked Sean McDermott, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much game planning goes into a game like this. He said between 0 and 1, and 0 wasn't even an option.
Yeah. Right. Some individual players on defense that, to my eye, I thought played well, and I've seen some people that would agree with that. Bosa didn't fill up the stat sheet, only played 12 snaps, but looked like someone who you could envision having an impact. Again, preseason game number 1. And then I thought down the depth chart, the two rookie defensive tackles, Sanders and Walker, both made plays, and I feel like Sanders just did a lot of things right that maybe aren't super flashy, right? Positionally, leverage-wise, holding guys up to let guys behind him make plays, that kind of stuff. I feel like the Bills should come away from the game feeling pretty good about their second-round pick.
I agree with that. I thought he played well. On the Jackson Dart touchdown pass I referenced to Lil Jordan Humphrey, TJ Sanders did a great job to put some pressure rate on him. So nice throw by Jackson Dart in the face of that pressure. But TJ Sanders did a really nice job. Deion Walker, I thought he did a nice job at the point of attack, but more so even getting his hand on a ball in the stat sheet, that's where he showed up. He had a batted down ball, and with his size and his wingspan, that's a way that he can impact the game in a way that you don't really necessarily expect an defensive tackle, but because he can get his arms in a throwing lane, that was very good for him as well. So yeah, I think overall for the two defensive rookie tackles, it was good. I don't think the same for Landon Jackson. I thought he had a tough go of it. Really didn't make much of an impact. He didn't show up in the stat sheet, which is fine, but it wasn't like he was necessarily being seen otherwise, other than obviously
a penalty, right?
A penalty that negated his own rookie classmate Jordan Hancock's interception. So learning more from him. He was accountable in the locker room. He said what he did was he kind of lined up on the guy, not the ball. It was obviously something where he was in the neutral zone, so they called him for it.
Eric Wood said, had it been in the regular season, he would owe Hancock a dinner. I was wondering, that'd probably be a pretty nice dinner for this one. First NFL pick, maybe, as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And, what's the preseason equivalent of dinner? Like a hot dog? Does he owe him at least something?
Drive-through.
Just, I don't know. James Cook, Sal, so no new information that I know of when it comes to him. Anybody talking in a different sort of tone yet when it comes to Cook? I just wonder if you're hearing, as the days go by, more speculation within the team that he might not be around soon.
I don't know about that, Mike, but I would say that I think it is kind of newer news, and it was a different tone listening to Sean McDermott after the game. In the press conference after the game, Sean McDermott said that him and James Cook had a good discussion. He wanted James Cook to play, and James Cook, said he wasn't going to play. I think that's interesting. Cook did warm up with the team. He suited up. He warmed up. He actually took an 11-on-11 rep. Matt Bove mentioned it on our podcast. I did not see it at the time, but he said he took an 11-on-11 rep in that pregame warm-up where they're just kind of going and walking through things at a jogging pace. But Sean McDermott said that they had a conversation. James didn't play. So I do think that's interesting and notable and maybe changes a bit of how we look at all this. If you're thinking, that the Bills kind of know what's going on and they're not really, pressuring the situation, I think maybe that sounds a little different to me than that.
Yeah, I was taken aback a little bit by that too, because I didn't hear the press conference, but I saw on the ticker on some station the words declined to play, which okay, wow, it's a little bit more stark than just whatever the usual would be.
All of this is so peculiar. Well, yeah, I'm going to just to my eyes and my mind, it's peculiar, Sal. The timing of his starting to hold in after going through 7 practices, and then dressing. Is there some financial reason that he if he doesn't take part in the warm up, does he get discredited for being there for the game or something? I'm trying to figure out why be in the warm-up? What is the value in that, other than getting people's hopes up that, maybe they reached a settlement, everything's going to be okay. Oh, no, he's not playing. I guess I don't follow other hold-ins in previous years around the league aggressively enough to know if this is a pretty common practice, but it just seemed odd to me that they would put him, he would want to even be out there, that they would want him out there in warm-ups if they know he's not going to take part in the game.
I don't believe they can fine him if he did not participate in the game, as long as he's at the facility and he shows up and he's on time and all that, right? I mean, that's part of the CBA. You're getting paid weekly here. During the preseason, guys do. Veterans get a little more money than rookies, but it's a weekly kind of salary you get. So from James Cook's standpoint, why would he want to do it? I think because maybe he just wants to go through warm-ups, show the same thing, kind of he's there, but he's not going to play, but also because the Bills believe that everybody should do that. From the Bills' standpoint, I mean, Sean McDermott just believes anybody who's healthy enough should do that. He values that stuff. He values going through that process, going through that routine, especially one home game in the preseason. Mm-hmm. That's the only chance you get inside the stadium to kind of do that with your timing on where everything is and how everything looks in the tunnel and coming out with your position group. Like that I know a lot of people kind of, look sideways at that. I get it. But Sean McDermott believes in the value of that and understanding that. And to me, that's why he said he wanted them to play. He wanted them to warm up, too, obviously. He wanted everybody to warm up if they're healthy enough. So from the Bills' standpoint, James Cook is just one of these player on the roster who they believe it's valuable to do that.
Sal, what are your thoughts after the first full weekend on the kickoff strategy? Seems that maybe the NFL has – last year they really didn't so much, but this year they seem to not want touchbacks. That's what it looked like to me. And kickers trying to, hit the green, right, between the goal line and the 20, and maybe trying different ways to accomplish that.
That was actually my biggest takeaway, Mike, which is I think the kickers did a good job to land the ball, to be honest with you. They put the ball at a spot where guy had to catch it right at the goal line. Like, this is going to become an art. It's going to really, that's a great analogy, like hit the green. You're trying to really hit a spot now as a kicker. And I thought the kickers overall did a really good job of that and forced the returns, and that's what you want. You don't want to go in for a touchback. We had a couple of those. Opening kickoff was a touchback, actually, for the Bills kicking the ball. But I think other than that, the teams are trying to purposely put it inside the 5-yard line and force guys to return it. And if they get to the 34 or less, then that's a win. They're considering it. And really, honestly, I think both kicking teams did a good job of that.
And we have two kickers named Davis for the time being here. What is going on with Bass? Like, has he been there at all at camp, participating? Yes,
he's there. He is kind of walking around. He's with his group. He kind of goes through a little bit of mental reps sometimes. You see him on the field envisioning things, but he's not actually kicking. He has a pelvic injury. I would say, just from reading this from the outside in, if it was serious enough, they would have signed somebody to come in for a week, not just a day to get you by. It would be like, okay, we got to get somebody in here to get reps. We got to get somebody in here to get the operation with Reed Ferguson and Brad Robbins. They haven't done that. They signed one guy the day before a game to come in to make sure they had a field goal kicker, and then they made sure that they had an emergency kicker ready in Ray Davis and went through that operation. And I liked and agreed with Sean McDermott's explanation. It's not for kicks and giggles. He said you never know if you lose your kicker during a game. You have to have a backup plan. The Bills, they were playing the Panthers a few years ago. The Panthers lost their kicker in pregame warmups. Panthers didn't have a kicker that game. Well, what if that happens during the game for the Bills? What if that happens during pregame warmups? Here's Ray Davis. They went through the operation. What does it look like if he has to do that, getting a kicking shoe on? Sean even went into the scenario of what if Ray Davis has to do that and he scores a touchdown? He has to go get the shoe on and come out. Like, these are things they have to think about in the grand scheme of things. But he said you're probably not going to see him do it again anymore in the preseason. They did it once. That's good. You don't want to see him out there taking unnecessary risks doing that. But in the meantime, guys, your question was about Tyler Bass, Mike. That's one of the guys I'd be eyeing this week to see if he returns to the field, because I think it's really important he starts to get back soon.
Now, field goals are another matter, but I'll say it before Mike does. If Ray Davis scores a touchdown and I don't have a kicker, just go for two. I'm not going to really worry about I get look, that doesn't mean I'm mad about them doing what they did in this game. Like, let's see if he can do it in case we ever really need it or something. How dependable is it, et cetera, et cetera. But, and realizing, like, on a field goal, you don't have the option to go for two. If you, want to kick, you're going to kick. Maybe even with your running back standing in for your kicker in an emergency basis. But as far as PATs go, I mean, just forget it. Just line up and go for two.
No, I don't disagree. I would hopefully that would be the situation if they're in that situation. While we're on special teams real quick, I thought Brad Robbins had a good day. The punter for the Bills. I thought he boomed some punts. He placed a couple really nicely. He didn't have really good numbers quote unquote. In Cincinnati, I say it that way because numbers are subjective when it comes to a punter. What's your job as a punter? And the Bills signed this guy to be a directional punter because they're not expecting him to have to kick from the 20-yard line all the time, right? And I thought he did a really good job. His gross average was like 52. He placed 3 of them out of 6 inside the 20. I thought that was a really good job by him.
Last thing, were a lot of people that you talked to either Saturday or since talking about seeing the new stadium right over there? That thing, right? I mean, it's so far along that I feel like that'll be, especially when it's a preseason game and you're not as invested, probably. I imagine a lot of the conversation in the stadium Saturday was about the new place.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, even for me, it was cool to see. I mean, because I get to go to the stadium more often than most people, and I see, the progress of it. But even when I go down there, maybe once a week at this point in time, a few days here and there, and all of a sudden you miss a few days, you go back, and it's like, man, it's just the progress that got made the last time you were there. It's pretty unbelievable. I heard a lot of people kind of talking about that, their first time that they were able to see that, the panels going up. When you come down, certain direction, you can see it kind of coming out of the ground a lot sooner than others, and then you see also that big dirt mound that's sitting back there as well. I mean, there's just a lot of things that kind of strike you, and you're like, wow, like this isn't really happening here, and it's coming along really fast.
Very good, Sal. Thanks for your time today. What's the schedule for the week?
Good question. Tomorrow we will hear from Sean McDermott at the 9 a.m. hour, and then the team will hit I think it's right at 9 a.m. maybe, but maybe shortly before. But either way, the team will be on the practice field at 9:30 a.m. And then Wednesday, I believe it's Babbage we're going to hear from early before practice, same thing, but they're going to practice both days. The media is allowed to watch just like we did during St. John Fisher, guys. There's no change in the media. There's just no fans right now. So this kind of stays the same for us. So that'll be Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday will be a travel day to Chicago. No practice for the media, at least. Maybe a walkthrough for them. But Thursday, a travel day to Chicago. Friday, a joint practice against the Bears.
And then did I hear you say on the broadcast Saturday's a day off?
Saturday's a day off for the I'm sure they have meetings, and I'm sure they have